I am a ghost painter. A gang leader came to me, wanting me to paint something to change his luck. I earnestly advised against it, explaining that one cannot casually alter fate. But he threatened me. Tonight, I'll take my subordinates to trash my rival's business. If your absurd fate-changing painting trick doesn't work, tomorrow I'll level this shop. That night, they won their battle. But the next day, they lost their lives. Ghost painters possess three arts: painting a skin to change fate, painting bones to alter destiny, and painting a soul to dispel evil. My name is Qing Mian, the 73rd generation ghost painter. After graduating, I opened a painting studio on a street corner, naming it the Ephemeral Dwelling. Inside the ephemeral dwelling are countless paintings, and each one seals an evil spirit. As dusk settled, I hung the freshly framed parrot painting on the wall. The stark white parrot in the painting stirred, but its angry bird head accused me. "Qin Mian, you tricked me. You didn't say you'd forge me a golden cage, did you?" "I don't have the money." "He does. Tell him to forge it for you." I pointed to Jiang Yanchen, who was standing beside me. He lazily sat on a pear wood chair, looking languid and relaxed. "My student here is a future billionaire. A tiny golden cage is not worth mentioning." Hearing this, Jiang Yanchen chuckled gleefully and said to the parrot, "Snowy parrot, don't get your hopes up." When Jiang Ran left, he specifically warned me not to let you stay in a golden cage. The parrot immediately slumped, drooped its head, and began to recite poetry. Feathers withered, tattered, and torn. Years have passed since I left the trees. If released from this cage, this snowy parrot would forever chant, "Namo One, Yin Bodhisattva." This parrot is called Snowy Parrot, once the beloved pet of Empress Wu. Years ago, Empress Wu had a golden cage specially forged for it, and promised it freedom if it could compose a poem. Unexpectedly, after only a moment of thought, it composed this very poem. Empress Wu was overjoyed and immediately kept her word, ordering her palace staff to release it. But not long after leaving the cage, it died, and for some unknown reason, transformed into a wandering evil spirit, roaming the world for thousands of years. Not long ago, it suddenly appeared at the home of Jiang Yanchen's friend, Jiang Ran. Possessing Jiang Ran every night to recite poetry under the moon, Jiang Ran's household staff discovered the abnormality. Today, Jiang Yangchen and I were invited to Jiang Ran's house to exorcise it. We caught the snowy parrot possessing Jiang Ran while reciting poetry and sealed it into this painting. On the way back to the ephemeral dwelling from Jiang Ran's house, it kept nagging about a golden cage. After hanging the parrot painting, I looked at the snowy parrot, still reciting poetry, and shook my head. The countless evil spirits sealed in my ephemeral dwelling became evil spirits either due to obsession or resentment. This snowy parrot doesn't carry resentment, so it can only be an obsession in its heart. I just don't know what its obsession is. Night fell. I closed the ephemeral dwelling, bid farewell to Jiang Yanchen, and went home to rest. The next day, as soon as I arrived at the ephemeral dwelling, I saw 4 black Audis parked outside the door. A group of menacing young men in black stepped out of the cars, lining up in 2 rows in front of the shop. They sat. A tall man with sharp brows and piercing eyes, emanating a killer aura, walked to the center. He strode directly in front of me, scrutinized me from head to toe, then opened his thin lips. "Hey, are you that ghost painter my sister told me to find?" Startled by his tone, I asked back, "Can you speak Mandarin?" "I don't quite understand." He frowned, looking annoyed, and was about to say something when a man and a woman approached from behind him. The woman, dressed in black leather pants with vibrant red lips, her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Hello." "Hello, Master Chin. I'm Yao. Tiantian." She then pointed to the man who had just spoken, and the scholarly-looking man next to him, wearing gold-rimmed glasses. "This is my eldest brother, Yao Heng, and my second brother, Song Ming." Hearing her introduction, my heart thumped. These three names, even someone like me, who rarely pays attention to the news, had heard of them. The Poisonous Snake of Yangang. The boss of the Black Jade Gang, controlling most of Yangang's entertainment and underground casinos. "Greetings." I nodded, my expression calm. Yao Tian smiled and circled me. "Master Chen, I've admired you ever since I watched your live stream taming of that tiny cat spirit. It took me a long time to find out your whereabouts, so I rushed here immediately." This enthusiastic flattery sparked a flicker of caution within me. In my profession, I don't fear dealing with ghosts, only with people. Especially people who live by the blade. Even a slight misstep can entangle one in karma. "What can I do for you all?" I glanced at them, asking indifferently. "Master, I heard you possess the art of fate-changing painting, that you can alter others' luck. I wonder if you can paint for us three siblings. I do know how to paint to change fate, but this art cannot be casually used on others. Everyone's destiny is predetermined. Attempts to change it will deplete one's spiritual merit. Moreover, Yao Heng and Song Ming have darkened glabellas and dim sibling palaces, indicating they will surely face a calamity of bloodshed recently. Simply painting to change their fate cannot save them." I thought for a moment and decided to change the subject. "I see that the fates of you three are very good, excessively good. You don't need any more fate changes." Yao Heng's face darkened, a hint of disdain flickering in his eyes. "Tiantian, I told you, this master is just a charlatan. We just lost 3 territories in a row, and she's just staring, saying our fates are good. If the 3 of you don't believe me, you may leave now." I feigned sadness, but inwardly rejoice. Yes, I am a fraud. You'd best leave quickly. Don't make things difficult for me." Yao Tian, looking apologetic, said, "Master, my eldest brother isn't in a good state recently. Please don't take his words to heart. I believe in your abilities." Song Ming next to her also smiled gently, but his eyes conveyed a meaning that could not be refused. "Master, no one ever complains that their fate is too good, especially since we've indeed encountered many misfortunes recently. Master, why be so humble?" It seemed I couldn't refuse to paint. I secretly sighed. "All right, if you are all so insistent, then I will paint to change your fates. But the effectiveness of the change varies from person to person. Don't hope for too much." Yao Tian smiled politely, showing understanding. It's all right, master. Just perform your magic. I nodded slightly and began to prepare my painting tools. We ghost painters who paint to change people's fates are similar to fortune tellers who examine feng shui. But fortune tellers examine the location and layout of houses. We, on the other hand, examine the internal organs, bones, as well as the direction and distribution of tendons and meridians in the human body, often called human body, feng shui. Changing fate is precisely changing the human body's feng shui. Transforming bad feng shui into good feng shui. I told Yao Heng to take off his shirt and lie prone on the long chair, observing the distribution and direction of the tendons and bones on his back. Yao Heng's Yamming foot channel. Tendons were slightly deviated and many areas were blocked. To change his fate, I needed to paint on these blocked areas. I thought for a moment, then used a goat hair brush dipped in celadon ink to meticulously paint a half-reclining striped tiger, almost covering his entire back. The tiger's eyes and forelimbs corresponded to Yao Heng's blocked meridian points. If combined with a magic array, it would achieve the effect of unblocking. After I finished painting, Yao Heng stood up and looked in the mirror. His expression softened slightly, seeming quite satisfied. Next was Song Ming. I intended to paint a grey wolf according to the direction of his meridians, but he tilted his head and looked at me. Master, can I choose my own pattern? Of course you can choose your own. I gently asked, what do you want to choose? Song Ming's eyes darkened slightly, and he turned to look at Yao Heng. An expression of admiration mixed with a hint of challenge on his face. If my elder brother is a tiger, how could I, his younger brother, be a wolf? Please draw a tiger for me as well. Two tigers, united in heart, will surely help the Black Jade Gang flourish. This kid. A flicker of suspicion passed through Yao Heng's eyes. Then he laughed loudly. Second brother is right. Draw a tiger for him too. Watching the two brothers' silent sparring, I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. It was rumored that the three Black Jade siblings grew up together with deep affection. Now, it seems the rumors were false. Yao Tian paid no attention to the unspoken confrontation between the two. She opened her sparkling eyes and looked at me. Master, second brother chose his own pattern. I want to choose mine too. Yao Heng looked at Yao Tian, a warm and doting expression on his face. What does Tian want to draw? If both brothers draw tigers, then I want a fox. I want to be a fox, borrowing the tiger's might, a small fox protected by my two brothers. Tian beamed, her radiant face becoming even more captivating. All right, Yao Heng chuckled, gently patting her head. I'll do as you say. Draw a striped tiger for Song Ming, and a fox for Yao Tian. After I finished painting for Yao Tian in the inner room, we stepped out to find Whoa! The atmosphere dropped to freezing point. Yao Tian looked at them, puzzled, and asked, Eldest brother, second brother, what's wrong? Yao Heng's face was as cold as ice. his voice chilling. Just now, one of our territories was trashed. Let's go back quickly. Oh. Yao Tiantian's tone was worried. Then she turned to me. Master, we've troubled you today. This is our remuneration. She nodded, signaling to her subordinate. A young man with a buzz cut stepped forward and handed me a check. I glanced at it and saw 5 zeros. The young man smiled at me, revealing 2 small dimples that looked somewhat familiar. Before the 3 of them left, I specifically instructed them not to shower for 3 days. After all, I hadn't truly painted to change their fates. True fate-changing painting requires a spirit-gathering brush and specially formulated paints to permeate deep into the skin and achieve genuine effect. What I used just now was an ordinary goat hair brush and common celadon ink. At most, it was just a beautiful painting on their backs that would wash off with a shower. As for whether Yao Heng and Song Ming would escape the calamity of bloodshed 3 days later, that remained to be seen. Yao Heng walked to the door, turned his head, and gave me a cold smile. Tonight, we'll go trash our rival's place. If your absurd fate-changing painting trick doesn't work, tomorrow I'll level this shop. Yao Tiantian pulled his sleeve, her expression disapproving. Eldest brother, what are you saying? You worry about yourself first. Only after their car had driven far away did I remember who the young man with the buzz cut who smiled at me earlier was. Half a month ago, I had met him on my way home. It was dusk then, the time when yin and yang intertwine. He stood at an intersection waiting for a car, emanating a strong killer aura that, to the surrounding spirits, he was like a fragrant sweet pastry. A woman driving a black Mercedes asked him if he needed a ride. He almost got in, but fortunately, I stopped him. Because that woman was a bound spirit, a soul tragically tied to that intersection where she died, trapped by obsession, seeking a guide. The killer aura on him had attracted the bound spirit, causing it to create an illusion, luring him onto a spirit carriage to become her guide. I conveniently saved him. At the time, I wondered why he looked so young, yet carried a killer aura. It turned out he was one of Yao Heng's men, working in the underworld. Who in that world wouldn't have a few lives on their hands? A killer aura was not surprising. Recalling how he stammered then, saying his killer aura was due to his sister's death, I couldn't help but chuckle. Someone with a killer aura either comes into contact with something unclean, or has someone close to die tragically. He didn't even know how to lie. They hadn't been gone long when a striking Lamborghini parked in front of the ephemeral dwelling. A man and a woman stepped out. The young man wore casual light brown clothes. His hair dyed wine red, with refined features and a hint of ruggedness. The girl wore a purple traditional horse-face skirt, her long hair tied up with a wooden hairpin, looking elegant and cold, like mountain snow. I squinted at this handsome pair until the wine-red-haired young man waved at me. Master Chin. I raised an eyebrow and asked, Jiang Ran, why are you here? That's right. The red-haired young man was Jiang Ran, the one who was possessed by the snowy parrot every night to recite poetry under the moon. Jiang Ran smiled brightly and introduced, Master Chen, this is my sister. She heard about you, exorcising the spirit for me, and wanted to meet you. The cold beauty in the flowing horse face. Skirt gracefully walked up to me and handed me a business card, her voice clear and gentle. "Hello, I'm Jiang Shunhua." I took the business card. Glancing at Jiang Shunhua's profession, I showed surprise. "Antique restoration specialist." Jiang Shunhua smiled, her cold face melting like ice and snow, tinged with gentleness. "I often enjoy collecting antiques. Over time, I learned some skills in antique restoration. So I opened a studio specializing in repairing antiques for friends in the industry." She spoke casually, but I sensed an unusual spiritual power. I curved my lips into a polite smile and said, "Miss Jiang's antique restoration skills must be superb. I must have the opportunity to admire them sometime." Jiang Shunhua's eyes were full of hidden meaning. "There will be an opportunity." While we were talking, Jiang Ran had walked up to the painting sealing the snowy parrot. One person and one parrot chatted animatedly. Clearly a parrot, yet it insists on learning to recite poetry and even possessed me. "Now look, you're sealed in the painting and can't get out." "Ha! Bastard, you bastard!" The tuft of feathers on Snowy Parrot's forehead stood on end, and it screeched at Jiang Ran. Jiang Ran's refined eyes flashed with anger, and a hint of indiscernible grievance. "Clearly you were in the wrong, yet you're scolding me. If you hadn't recited poetry in the middle of the night, I wouldn't have had big dark circles under my eyes every day and been told I had kidney deficiency. Even my parents said I was worse than a parrot." Snowy Parrot looked down at Jiang Ran from above. "Idiot, idiot!" Seeing Jiang Ran about to argue with Snowy Parrot, I called him back. "Jiang Ran, did you only come here today to argue with it?" Jiang Ran seemed to remember his main purpose. He went back to the car and retrieved a golden bird cage. This parrot kept nagging about a golden cage. I was going to give it to her, but now I've changed my mind. I'll just let her look at it. With that, he shook the golden cage in front of Snowy Parrot. Snowy Parrot's eyes followed the golden cage without a single flicker, its large bean-like bird eyes filled with very human longing. "Give it to me." Jiang Ran grinned mischievously, looking very annoying. "Want it? Apologize to me, and I'll give it to you." Hearing this, Snowy Parrot turned its back, showing it would rather die than apologize. Jiang Shunhua gently spoke up. "Come on, Xiao Ran. It didn't harm you anyway. Just leave the golden cage for it." Hearing this, Jiang Ran's smile faded. "Here, the golden cage is for you." He placed the cage on the table and then greeted me. "Master Chen, we'll take our leave now." I nodded slightly. Jiang Shunhua subtly curved her red lips, her eyes showing a profound look. "Qin Mian, if you ever need any antiques repaired in the future, remember to find me." The expression and tone in which she said this were not polite, but rather like an expectation. I didn't understand why she thought I would have antiques that needed repairing. I was just a poor ghost painter doing exorcisms. There wasn't a single antique in this ephemeral dwelling. She certainly overestimated me. I was about to ask, but she had already left the door with Jiang Ran, getting into their car and driving away. The snowy parrot in the painting suddenly let out a joyful cry, flying back and forth agitatedly within the painting. I chanted a spell to release the seal, letting it out of the painting. It immediately flew into the cage. This is the golden cage His Majesty gave me. His Majesty gave it to me. Which Majesty? Empress Wu? Are you mistaken? I had thought Zhang Ran simply made it a regular golden cage. If this was truly the golden cage Empress Wu gave it, wouldn't it be priceless? Snowy Parrot circled the golden cage, as emotional as if it had found a lost treasure, affirming confidently, I can't be mistaken. There are still my 5 peck marks on it. I looked closely at the golden cage. Indeed, closely at the golden cage. There were 5 faint peck marks. In that moment, I was overwhelmed with emotion. The Jiang family truly kept a low profile. To casually present something like this, it must be a Tang Dynasty artifact. The next day, I arrived at the ephemeral dwelling's door and saw several familiar black sedans outside. Several young men in black were guarding the entrance. The leader was the buzz-cut young man who had given me the check yesterday. Seeing me, the buzz-cut young man, Lu Tong approached, looking apologetic and awkward. Master Qin, Sister Tian wants to invite you over. Please come with us. What's the matter? Lu Tong stammered. Brother Heng and Brother Ming got into trouble. The calamity of bloodshed came so quickly. I suppressed my doubts, my voice cold. What happened to them has nothing to do with me. Master Qin, you once saved me. I believe this matter surely has nothing to do with you. His eyes pleaded. But this is Sister Tian's order. We must invite you. Don't worry, you'll be fine. I rubbed my temples, feeling a wave of exhaustion. Indeed, dealing with people is the most tiring. Let's go, I said, following them into the car. On the way to meet Yao Tiantian, Lu Tong recounted what happened last night. Last night, Yao Heng led a group of subordinates to trash their rival's business around 11 o'clock. The rival was caught off guard, suffering heavy losses. They had successfully turned the tables and vented their anger for losing 3 territories earlier. After returning, everyone was happy and started drinking in the front yard. After a few rounds, Yao Heng pulled the song, Ming inside, to continue drinking, saying the 2 brothers wanted to have a private talk. The 2 stayed inside all night. Everyone thought they were just drunk. Until the next morning, when Yao Tiantian went to look for them. She found Song Ming collapsed in a pool of blood, his face pale, a large gash on his head. He was dead. Yao Heng was also covered in wounds, unconscious on the floor. Yao Tiantian thought long and hard, concluding that I had played a trick with the fate-changing painting, causing them to suffer this fate. Because last night, not only did the 2 of them encounter a bloody disaster, Yao Tiantian also fell while walking on the street and suffered a cut on her head. I was brought to the residence of the 3 Yao siblings. They lived in a large house with a front and backyard. The front yard was very spacious, built in the style of a traditional courtyard house, with a large open space in the middle and many rooms on all 4 sides, probably where the subordinates lived. The backyard was smaller, but more exquisitely and luxuriously decorated, likely where the 3 siblings resided. When I arrived, Yao Tiantian was sitting listlessly on the sofa, her head wrapped in a bandage. The room was chaotic, many broken ceramic pieces scattered on the floor, looking like a fierce brawl had occurred. Song Ming's body was still in place, covered with a white sheet, but it was soaked in blood. Yao Heng was nowhere to be seen. He must have been taken for treatment. Seeing me, Yao Tiantian rushed over to question me. Her eyes filled with hatred, mixed with a hint of complexity. Qin Mian, what trick did you play with that fate-changing art to harm us 3 siblings so badly? I found it a bit amusing. Why do you think I played a trick? Yesterday, after the 3 of us had our fates painted at your place, we all suffered bloody disasters. If not you, then who? I patiently explained to her. Last night, only the 2 of them were in the house. Perhaps they had a conflict, and in a moment of carelessness, they ended up hitting each other to this extent. Moreover, you falling and cutting your head while walking was just a coincidence. Are you blaming me for that too? Yao Tiantian was full of suspicion. Who knows if you used some dark magic yesterday when you painted? Deliberately harming us. Why would I harm you? Over the years, we've made quite a few enemies. Who knows? Perhaps you're someone our enemies sought out. My patience ran out. I didn't want to argue with her anymore. I walked over to Song Ming's body and lifted the white sheet. I forcefully wiped the striped tiger I had painted on Song Ming's back. The green color immediately stained my hand. I showed my hand to Yao Tiantian. Actually, I didn't paint to change your fates yesterday at all. I only used ordinary paint to draw a common picture. Therefore, it's impossible for me to have used dark magic on you. Yao Tiantian was a little disbelieving. She reached out and wiped her own back, also wiping off a hand stained with green paint. She looked at the paint on her hand in astonishment, and I explained, fate-changing painting requires specially formulated paint to deeply penetrate the skin. If it washes off, it won't have any effect on changing fate. Yao Tiantian stared at the paint for a long time, then asked in a dry voice, if it wasn't you, then who was it? Or there's a possibility that last night they truly intended to kill each other, which led to the fight. The moment I finished speaking, Yao Tiantian immediately denied it. After that, she quickly added, we 3 siblings grew up together, relying on each other to get to where we are today. How could they want to kill each other? I didn't understand why someone in the underworld could be so naive, and the sister of a gang leader no less. I said helplessly, power and money change people. Perhaps your relationship was very good at first, but the gang has been established for so many years, experiencing so many things. Do you think they are still the same people they were back then? Yao Tiantian opened her mouth, looking a little sad. Is that true? Without waiting for my reply, she mumbled as if trying to convince herself. My parents died when I was very young. I always relied on my eldest brother. My second brother's family lived right next door. Although he had a father, his father was addicted to gambling. Every time he lost, he would beat him. Later, his father was beaten to death by people from the casino, leaving only him. My eldest brother, out of compassion, took him into our home. At that time, my eldest brother was still underage and had to do manual labor to support us. When times were tough, we picked up garbage and ate tree bark. We even stole. The 2 of them always gave me the best, even if it meant going hungry for days. Later, my eldest brother joined a small gang because of his good health and became a small leader. Finally, we no longer had to worry about food and clothing. My second brother was frail when he was young, but had a great talent for learning. My eldest brother gritted his teeth and sent both me and my second brother to school. During the more than 10 years we were in school, my eldest brother became the boss of the small gang, gradually developing it into a larger and stronger one. After graduating, my second brother gave up a good job and became my eldest brother's deputy. They worked hard for so many years, eventually becoming the largest gang in Yunga. We originally named the gang Black Jade, the Black Elm Tree, to commemorate the days when we didn't have enough to eat. We were once so close. How could they? Hyanthian's tone changed, her face full of hope. Master, could you help me re-examine this room? I still don't believe they would come to this. Her naivety made me sigh. All right, but I'm not sure if I'll find anything. Yao Tiantian said nothing, bowing to thank me, her eyes red. I re-examined the room once more, still finding nothing. Besides the broken pieces on the floor, Song Ming's body also showed no abnormalities. He indeed died from excessive blood loss after being beaten. However, this room, though seemingly simple, had quite a few antiques. Yo Heng, despite looking rough, is an antique collector. Yeah. I scratched my head and plopped onto the sofa. Tell me what happened after the two of them went into the room to drink. Yao Tiantian slowly recounted. I wasn't home last night. The subordinate said that after eldest brother and second brother returned from trashing the place, they kept drinking in the room. Then there were sounds of things breaking in the room. They thought the two were drunk, so they didn't go in to check. It wasn't until this morning that I went to look for them and found my second brother dead. Eldest brother was lying unconscious on the floor. No one entered here last night, right? She thought for a moment. Last night the brothers were all guarding the front yard, and no one saw anyone enter the backyard. Moreover, even if someone did enter, they couldn't possibly defeat both eldest brother and second brother at the same time. What she said basically ruled out the possibility of someone else being the killer. Unless the killer wasn't human. But there were no traces of a ghost appearing in this room. Everything indicated they killed each other. I walked back and forth in the room, stopping at the liquor table where they had been drinking. On the table, some plates were broken during the brawl. Some were still intact. I picked up an overturned porcelain wine cup on the table, preparing to put it back. Suddenly, I realized there was only one cup on the table. Two people drinking together. How could there be only one cup? Where is the other cup? Hearing this, Yao Tiantian came beside me and re-examined the tableware on the table. The other cup was my eldest brother's black glazed teacup. Recently, eldest brother has been particularly fond of using it to drink wine. I glanced over the broken ceramic pieces on the floor. None were black, so that cup was very likely taken by someone. That cup is missing. Did anyone enter this room today? Yao Tiantian's expression changed, and she immediately called a subordinate to check if anyone had entered this room last night. It's just that I didn't understand why that person would take a wine cup. If he hadn't taken the cup, I wouldn't have discovered the abnormality. Even if the cup held a clue, he could have just smashed it, and the clue would have been broken. Everyone would just think it was broken during Yao Heng and Song Ming's fight in the house, not thinking of anything else. Now, his taking the cup provided me with a clue. He accepted the risk of exposure, but still had to take the cup. Unless that cup was a crucial link in his plan. But what good is a cup? Could it kill someone? This thought suddenly horrified me. In my profession, I've witnessed many unbelievable things. If a cup could kill someone, it wouldn't be impossible. I turned to look at Yao Tian. What does your brother's black glazed teacup look like? That black glazed teacup, my eldest brother acquired it a month ago. It's a shiny dark blue-black with tiny cracks inside. It's said to be from the Song dynasty and very valuable. I'm not an expert in antiques, but I thought of someone who definitely would know. I took out my newly bought phone, intending to contact Jiang Shunhua. Luckily, I had saved her number earlier because my contact list was empty. Otherwise, I would have had to rummage for her business card. I dialed Jiang Shunhua's number. She answered very quickly, her voice clear as a mountain spring. Xin Mian. I didn't bother with pleasantries and went straight to the point. I have something I want to ask you. I think you, as an antique restoration specialist, would know. Jiang Shunhua was also very direct. Tell me, can antiques kill people? There was a moment of silence on the other end and a soft chuckle. Theoretically, no, but in reality, yes. In reality, yes. In reality. Where are you? I'll come to find you right away. I looked at Yao Tian beside me. A friend of mine is coming. She might have a clue. Yao Tian nodded. Then I gave Jiang Shunhua the location. She said she would arrive within 10 minutes. True enough, in less than 10 minutes, Jiang Shunhua arrived. Her eagerness was thought-provoking, but it also made me uneasy. It was as if I were her prey, and she had been waiting for me to take the bait. Yao Tian told her subordinate to go to the door and escort Jiang Shunhua in. She was wearing a retro black outfit, her hair tied up with a black wooden hairpin, looking both sharp and mysterious. Xin Mian, we meet again. She curved her lips into a smile, her eyes revealing joy, completely devoid of the coldness I saw at our first meeting. The discomfort in my heart increased slightly. I smiled faintly. Long time no see. My reaction seemed to satisfy her. The smile on her face deepened. She didn't care to ask, what was that about antiques killing people you mentioned earlier? Where is that antique? Turning to the main subject, I temporarily set aside the discomfort in my heart. That antique was a black glazed teacup from the Song dynasty, and it has been taken by someone. I recounted the situation of Yao Heng and Song Ming's accident to Jiang Shunhua. After listening, she pondered, what you said does indeed fit very well. Then she walked to Song Ming's body, squatted down, and examined his wounds. Her voice became serious. In the antique world, there's always been a rumor that some antiques, due to the unique nature of their owners and what they have experienced, possess a spiritual essence. And once this spiritual essence is exploited by others, it can turn deadly. I understood her meaning. So, you mean that antique has turned deadly and was used to harm those two? Jiang Shunhua nodded. That's right. The killer aura on Song Ming is different from ordinary killer auras. It was caused by an antique turned deadly. Moreover, According to your description of that black glazed teacup, its owner was very likely a special figure during the Song Dynasty. What specific effect does its deadly aura have? We need to find that black glazed teacup to know. Wait, what did you just say? Jiang Shunhua looked at me in surprise. The owner of that teacup was very likely a special figure during the Song Dynasty. No, the sentence before that. The killer aura on Song Ming was caused by that antique. Yes, that's the one. I think I know who the culprit is now. The buzzcut young man Lu Tong, who had a killer aura when I met him before. I had thought it was because he did something unclean for Yao Heng, which caused the killer aura. Later, I met Yao Heng and Song Ming, and they also had killer auras. So I thought it was because their hands were stained with human blood, not thinking of anything else. Now, looking back, the killer aura on Lu Tong was probably because he touched that black glazed teacup. In other words, Lu Tong had started planning half a month ago. He somehow turned the black glazed teacup deadly. The black glazed teacup was always used by Yao Heng. Song Ming often drank with Yao Heng, so they also became infected with the deadly aura. The reason Lu Tong accepted the risk of exposure, but still had to take the black glazed teacup, was that he was afraid I would discover the deadly aura on it. Perhaps in his plan, he didn't expect Yao Tiantian to seek me out, so he didn't have time to prepare more thoroughly, and could only take the wine cup from Yao Heng's room amidst the chaos. If my guess is not wrong, the culprit must be Lu Tong. Yao Tiantian was slightly surprised, a cold glint flashing in her eyes. She immediately ordered her subordinates to apprehend Lu Tong. The subordinates left for a while, then returned. Sister Tian, Lu Tong is not in his room. Yao Tiantian's face was filled with hatred. She said coldly, "Gather all the brothers to hunt down Lu Tong, especially at bus stations and train stations. We must block him. Don't let him escape." "Ah, yes, we'll call the brothers right away." After 2 days of searching, Yao Tiantian's subordinates finally found out Lu Tong's whereabouts. They discovered traces of him in his hometown. We received the news and went to Lu Tong's hometown, where we found him kneeling in a morning hall, burning joss paper. On the memorial photo was a young, beautiful woman, smiling brightly, full of sunshine. Seeing us arrive, he didn't even lift his head, continuing to burn joss paper by himself. Yao Tiantian sneered, questioning Lu Tong. "We didn't treat you badly. Why did you harm my brothers?" Lu Tong said nothing, as if immersed in his own world. Yao Tiantian walked over and grabbed him by the collar. "Speak!" Lu Tong's eyes were icy, his face full of sarcasm. "Why did I harm them? I also wonder what my sister did wrong. Why did those two beasts kill her?" Yao Tiantian was stunned for a moment. "Who is your sister?" "That's right. How would you remember her?" "She was just an ordinary dancer in your nightclub, someone who died for not obeying. You sit high and mighty, only knowing to order your subordinates to teach a lesson to anyone who doesn't listen. You only knew to kill her when she wanted to escape that living hell, as easily as killing an ant." Yao Tiantian was silent for a long time, then released Lu Tong's collar, uttering 2 soft words. "I'm sorry." Lu Tong knelt on the ground, looked up at me. "Master Qin, I apologize to you. I implicated you before. My throat was dry. I didn't know what to say. Because if it weren't for me, he might not have been caught. No one knew this was a trap he had set. He seemed to know what I was thinking, and chuckled softly. If you hadn't saved me half a month ago, I might have been harmed by the bound spirit, and I wouldn't have had the chance to avenge my sister. He said, actually, I should thank you. Jiang Shunhua stood beside me, patting my shoulder, stood beside, her eyes conveying comfort. Lu Tong threw more joss paper into the brazier, not looking at Yao Tiantian, but speaking to her. For 3 years, I joined the Black Jade Gang. You indeed didn't treat me badly. But every time I saw them, I remembered my sister. I couldn't help but hate them. Couldn't abandon my conscience. Moreover, there are many girls in the nightclub, just like my sister. Now that I've harmed them, I consider it a liberation for those girls as well. That's enough. Yao Tiantian lowered her head, looking very calm, thinking of God knows what. Lu Tong threw all the joss paper in his hands into the brazier, stood up, and walked to his sister's memorial photo, wiping the dust off the frame. Actually, after harming those two, I didn't think about surviving. I just wanted to go back and see my sister again. His face turned pale, and he smiled softly, peacefully. I realized what he wanted to do, but it was too late. Fresh blood gushed from his mouth, flowing down his chin, dripping onto the hand, wiping the photo frame. 1 drop, 2 drops, 3 drops. He was still smiling. Then he hugged the photo and fell to the ground, closing his eyes forever. After Lu Tong's death, Yao Tiantian remained silent. She even instructed her subordinates to bury him and erect a grave next to his sister's. We stood before Lu Tong's grave. I turned to look at Yao Tiantian's profile and said softly, "Actually, you also instigated this, didn't you?" Yao Tiantian's eyes were hazy. "What? I never suspected you before because all your reactions were very normal. But you were too normal. You always pretended to be innocent, so innocent that you didn't notice the silent rivalry between Yao Heng and Song Ming, and even insisted that Yao Heng and Song Ming were not harmed by personal vendettas, but by someone else. As one of the 3 leaders of the gang, that level of innocence seems a bit hard to believe. And one more thing. When you described the situation of their accident that night, you deliberately explained why you weren't home and why they fought for so long without anyone intervening. The explanation was too detailed, as if you were standing by and witnessing it. Initially, I thought you and Lu Tong were on the same side, but he didn't seem to know you were involved in this, and you didn't know he was the culprit. Therefore, your role in this matter was likely that of an outsider observing." Yao Tiantian's deep black eyes looked at me for a moment. "These are just your speculations. So, what was my motive for doing that? I don't know. Perhaps it was ambition, perhaps hatred, or perhaps conscience." Yao Tiantian scoffed, then turned and walked away. Jiang Shunhua found the black glazed teacup at Lu Tong's house. After appraisal, it was confirmed to be an item belonging to Emperor Taizu of Song, Zhao Kuanyi, and was indeed the wine cup from the famous historical event disbanding military power with a cup of wine. After Lu Tong used a special technique to turn it deadly, It gained the ability to subtly influence the human mind, making people suspicious and distrustful until they eliminated the person who caused them the greatest harm. Thus, that night, Yao Heng and Song Ming truly killed each other. Jiang Shunhua said she had been tracking a batch of antiques. This wine cup was one of them. She investigated and found that the batch of antiques was in Yao Heng's possession. But she couldn't approach Yao Heng. Then Yao Heng sought me out, so she left her contact information, hoping to access that batch of antiques through me. Heaven helps those who help themselves. She didn't expect Yao Heng to get into trouble so quickly and drag me into it. She was also able to naturally access the antiques. Now, the Black Jade Gang only had Yao Tiantian left. Yao Tiantian was not someone who liked collecting antiques, so Jiang Shunhua wanted to buy that batch of antiques from Yao Tiantian. I told Yao Tiantian about this batch of antiques. She only said she already knew. The next day, Jiang Shunhua received that batch of antiques. Yao Tiantian had gifted them all to her without taking any money. Not long after, I heard that the nightclubs, entertainment venues, and underground casinos under the Black Jade Gang had all closed down. Yao Tiantian led her subordinates to a secluded area to build factories. Most of the factory's annual profits were donated to charitable organizations. One day, Jiang Ran came to the ephemeral dwelling, carrying a small coffin-shaped purple sandalwood box tightly. My sister said this was the coffin empress Wu used to bury Snowy Parrot back then. It was dug up by a group of tomb raiders and sold to Yao Heng. Snowy Parrot's soul was originally residing in this purple sandalwood. Huh? After being dug up by the tomb raiders, it couldn't find a place to reside, which is why it was attracted to my family's golden cage. He placed the purple sandalwood coffin in front of Snowy Parrot. What you were looking for, I found. You can rest in peace now. I unsealed Snowy Parrot. It flew out of the painting, excitedly fluttering around the coffin, finally landing on Jiang Ran's shoulder, rubbing its bird head against his chin. I'm sorry and thank you, Jiang Ran. Finally, Jiang Ran found a spot in his family cemetery to bury Snowy Parrot, burying it with the golden cage and the coffin. According to Jiang Shunhua, Jiang Ran was always sad those days. Once, she even saw Jiang Ran reciting poetry under the moon in the middle of the night, wiping away tears. Jiang Yangxin had been busy with his company for a while. Today, he heard I was taken by gangsters a few days ago and rushed to the ephemeral dwelling to thoroughly check if I was injured. Seeing that I was fine, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Master, why didn't you call me when you got into trouble? Don't talk about gangsters. Even if the Heavenly Emperor himself came, I would stand in front of you. He made me laugh. I smiled and explained. I handled it myself, so I didn't tell you. To save you worry. Jiang Yanchen sighed in disappointment. Alas, Master is too strong. There's no place for me to show my filial piety. I extended my hand towards Jiang Yanchen. You can show your filial piety to Master with money. Master doesn't mind too much money. Jiang Yanchen handed me a black card. Take it. Swipe freely. I accepted the black card and looked out the window. Sunbeams pierced through the clouds, illuminating everything. Even the darkest corner could at least see a glimmer of light. Yao Tiantian's personal account. That night, I stood in the yard and saw my eldest brother and second brother fighting fiercely. But I was possessed by an evil spirit and didn't stop them. The more they fought, the more aggressive they became. Things in the room fell to the ground, making loud noises. The noise attracted a subordinate. I chased him away from a distance, telling him that nothing was wrong. In that moment, my heart pounded like crazy. My palms involuntarily sweated. I had imagined this scene for a very long time. When it actually happened, my heart felt a strange pleasure mixed with a tinge of remorse, like a dream. I wasn't unaware of the rivalry between my eldest brother and second brother over the years. Although we grew up together, relying on each other, our bond gradually dissolved in the face of power and money. Even I had changed. We three siblings grew up in hardship. But after becoming powerful, we became the ones who brought suffering to others. I saw the girls in the nightclub, saw them transform from bright and radiant to hollow and lifeless. I saw them being toyed with, abused to death, then discarded like rags and carelessly buried. I saw the frenzied gamblers in the underground casinos, saw them selling their wives and children to pay debts, saw them having their hands and feet chopped off, yet still wanting to get back to the gambling table to try and recoup their losses. I once wanted to stop my eldest brother and second brother, telling them not to engage in these businesses anymore. But they just indifferently said, "Don't bother with these things. Just be our young lady." So, night after night, I was tormented by the faint conscience in my heart, unable to sleep. A person accustomed to living in darkness, who suddenly develops a conscience, will live in suffering. I knew that perhaps only when I held power could I say no to these things, could I establish the laws of heaven. But I couldn't bring myself to act. I didn't have a legitimate reason to seek revenge on them like Luton did, because they were my brothers, and I too, like them, trod on the blood and bones of others to enjoy glory, and deserved to die just as much as they did. So, I pretended to be innocent and harmless, watching them secretly fight and waiting for them to destroy each other. But they never tore off their masks, not because of that ridiculous bond, but because they didn't dare. They were a community of interests, and they all feared death. That night they fought. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't want to stop it. I even wanted to thank that person. Finally, through the window, I saw the two of them covered in blood, the thinner shadow falling heavily to the floor. I recognized it was my second brother. The Bronia once stumbled and also collapsed to the ground. That was my eldest brother. I turned and walked away, tears streaming down my face, unable and unwilling to look back. They had both fallen. I had to rise to atone for their sins. I, cowardly and shameless, heartless and affectionate, dirty and despicable. All my life, I will have to atone for my sins, but I have no regrets. None.